Hey folks, my name's Ed Trevors. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm an Anglican priest serving in the beautiful parish of Christchurch-Shelburne that sits on the ancestral and on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Gwe. Now today, as I am all week, I am recording this from my mother's sewing loft in Oak Point, New Brunswick that sits on the Miramichi River. Also, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I had a conversation with my parents last night, and it was a brilliant conversation with my parents. I really like talking to my parents, and it strikes me that the older I get, the more I appreciate them. I think when I was younger, maybe I tuned them out because obviously when I was younger, I knew everything. But now that I'm older, I'm really enjoying the time. Anyway, my parents were talking about something that happened in my dad's life, and I thought it was interesting. That's why I wanted to share it with you, obviously. Dad was talking about a time in his life when some people that should have been supporting him, should have been backing him up, should have been, at least they should have recognized they were on the same team, if not necessarily on the exact same page, kind of stabbed him in the back. They worked against something he was doing in a really underhanded, a really kind of horrible way. A way that most people wouldn't consider to be ethical or moral or honorable. Now, Dad, as he told us this story, it was just a story he was telling. Mom became incredibly agitated, very, very energized. And she was, I would never forgive them, and I'm not going to do this, and they did that, and I can't believe this, and that. And Dad said, it happened so long ago that when it happened, I was a little upset, but then life went on and everything is what it is. And I realize as I'm talking like this, I'm making my father sound like he's, some kind of, flippity dippity. He's not at all. Dad's incredibly well-informed and thoughtful and energetic, opinionated. Sometimes pig-headed, but the bottom line is, here was this one moment in time that happened. It happened to my father, but because it happened to my father, it also happened to my mother. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that Mom was as angry as she was, not because it happened to her, but because it happened to somebody that she loved, somebody that she wants to protect, whereas it happened to Dad, Dad's willing to let it go. So it's easy to see that they're coming at it from two different perspectives. This one event struck them both completely differently, and they've had completely different responses to that moment. And as I've been thinking about this, this is kind of like every experience in life. None of us will ever experience the same thing the same way. I may have an experience that you'll be able to relate to because you've had a similar experience. We both could have lost something in the same way, and yet the experience is going to be different because we're different people. We grew up differently. We have different triggers. We have different experiences. We have different histories. And because we have all those differences in our past, when we come to that one moment, we're going to take it a completely different way. It's going to affect us a completely different way. We're going to see it in a completely different way. I've mentioned this book in this channel probably a long time ago, but it's a book called The Grief Recovery Handbook. The Grief Recovery Handbook has been an incredible tool for me as a person who's grieved, as a person who's dealing with loss and who's dealing with pain. And one of the great lessons in that book is that no two people ever experience the same loss the same way. And when we say those words, I know exactly how you feel. That's just not possible. And sadly, it's oftentimes not helpful. It's much more helpful for us to say something like, I've been through something similar. Tell me your story. If we truly want to help somebody who's going through something, laying down that we have gone through the same thing, it actually shuts down the conversation. Because if we've gone through it, I don't need to tell you my story. But to truly help somebody through their grief, to truly help somebody through their pain, through their loss, we've got to open these things that are attached to the sides of our face. We have to ask them how they're doing. We have to ask them what it's like. As a young minister, I had an encounter with a family who was grieving a loss. And when I met them, I asked them how they were feeling. And the statement was quickly made, you can add your own word, do you think I'm feeling? What do you mean, how am I feeling? How do you think I'm feeling? To which I responded, well, I don't know, because I've never experienced the kind of loss that you've just experienced. How does it feel? What are you thinking? Where are you? What are the thoughts that are rolling through your brain? What are the emotions that are pounding through your chest? How are you feeling? The great thing about being a human being is that we are all individuals. We're all unique. The challenging thing about being a human being is that we are all individuals and we are all unique. We all have different stories. We all have different experiences. We all have different histories. We all have different perceptions that are formulated by those experiences and those histories. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord's face be made to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord's countenance be lifted up to you. May you always know the peace of being in the Lord's presence. And I pray that we will endeavor to honor one another's experiences by listening to their stories. That we will see the beauty, the opportunity, the blessing that comes when we recognize that nobody has ever gone through what we have gone through. No two people have ever experienced the same moment the same way. But there are stories to be told, and that there are stories to be heard, that we never have to stop learning. Amen. Nemultus.